A planned robbery targeting 3 banks in Ghana's capital, Accra, had reportedly been stopped before the criminals could carry out their attack. The Ghana Police Service says 2 suspected members of a robbery syndicate were killed during a shootout with officers, while another suspect was arrested. The incident happened in Labun, Accra, after police received intelligence that a gang was preparing to attack 3 banks in the area: GCB Bank, Eco Bank, and Zenith Bank. And what happened next turned into a dramatic police operation. According to the Ghana Police Service, intelligence was received at about 10:45 a.m. on August 13, 2026, warning that the gang was preparing to launch the robbery. Police immediately deployed a team to Labun. Officers reportedly located the suspected robbers in vehicles parked close to the banks. The suspects appeared to be waiting near the intended targets, but they were apparently unaware that the police had already been alerted. According to the police account, the gang was operating with at least 2 vehicles. When the suspects noticed the arrival of law enforcement officers, one of the vehicles suddenly sped away. Police officers immediately gave chase. The pursuit eventually led to the arrest of a suspect identified as Augustine Okechukwu Mazi. However, another occupant of the vehicle reportedly managed to escape. The situation then escalated. Police said the suspect traveling in the second vehicle also attempted to flee, but this time, the escape reportedly involved gunfire. According to the Ghana Police Service, the occupant of the second vehicle opened fire as they attempted to get away. Police officers responded. A shootout followed, but when the gun battle ended, 2 suspected robbers had been killed. The police have not publicly identified the 2 deceased suspects. Their bodies were reportedly taken to a morgue for preservation, identification, and autopsy. The arrested suspect, Augustine Okechukwu Mazi, remains in police custody and is assisting investigators with the ongoing investigation. But the operation has raised a major question. What exactly was this group planning to do at 3 banks in the same area? The police say the suspects were preparing to attack GCB Bank, Eco Bank, and Zenith Bank. The fact that all 3 banks were located in Labun suggests that the operation may have involved careful planning and surveillance. Investigators will now be looking at how long the suspects have been monitoring the banks, whether they had accomplices, and whether anyone inside or outside the banks had provided information to the gang. Police also recovered 2 vehicles allegedly linked to the suspects. One was a Toyota Highlander with registration number GS143418. The second was a Hyundai Tucson with registration number GS791517. A blow pistol was also recovered during the operation. Those items could become important evidence as investigators attempt to reconstruct what the suspects were planning. The recovered vehicles may also help police establish how the suspects moved around Accra before arriving at Labun. Investigators could examine the vehicles for fingerprints, weapons, communication devices, or other evidence that might reveal additional members of the alleged syndicates. The arrest of Mazi could also provide investigators with their biggest opportunity to understand the planned operation. Police will likely want to establish who organized the alleged robbery, who financed it, who supplied weapons, and whether the group had previously carried out similar attack. More importantly, investigators may want to know whether the suspects can identify the person who escaped from the first vehicle. That individual could potentially lead police to another member of the network. The Ghana Police Service has not indicated whether any money was stolen because the operation was reportedly stopped before the suspected robbery could take place. That makes the intelligence that triggered the police response particularly significant. Without that information, the suspect may have been able to enter the banks and begin the robbery before officers arrived. Instead, police were already waiting for them. The operation therefore highlights the importance of intelligence gathering in preventing violent crime. Bank robberies can place civilians, bank employees, and security personnel at enormous risks. A robbery involving armed suspects can quickly turn into a hostage situation or a deadly confrontation. Stopping such an operation before it begins can therefore prevent casualties and financial losses. But the police still face the task of determining whether this was an isolated criminal operation or a part of a wider robbery network. The two vehicles, the recovered weapon and the arrested suspect, could provide investigators with critical clues. The police have urged members of the public to continue providing credible information about criminal activities. That appeal reflects an increasingly important aspect of modern policing. Criminal groups may plan their operations secretly, but they still interact with communities. They rent properties, they purchase vehicles, they communicate with people, they move through neighborhoods, and sometimes someone notices something unusual. Information provided early enough can give police the opportunity to intervene before criminals strike. In this case, the Ghana Police Service says the opportunity came at around 10:45 a.m. Within a short period, officers were deployed, suspects were located, a chase followed, one suspect was arrested, another escaped, a second vehicle became involved in a shootout. The two suspects were killed, and the alleged robbery of 3 banks was stopped. But the investigation is far from over. The arrested suspect may now hold information capable of exposing the wider network behind the planned attack. Police will need to establish the identities of the 2 deceased suspects, trace the escaped suspects, and determine whether additional members of the alleged syndicate remain at large. For the banks and businesses operating in Labun, the immediate danger may have passed, but the incident serves as a reminder that organized criminals can spend considerable time planning attacks before making their move. In this case, however, the police said they were one step ahead. The suspected robbers allegedly arrived prepared to attack 3 banks. They left with 2 of their alleged accomplices dead, another suspect in custody, and their weapons and vehicles seized. And now investigators have the difficult task of following the evidence to determine just how large this alleged robbery network really is. I'm Chimejim Okoro, and I will see you soon.